This is a redo of the video, the interview. You guys complained about the audio, so I tried to use a different effect on the voice. Once again, I've looked into this. I've spent a lot of time researching this. It's really, it's very mysterious. It's true. I don't know how to explain it other than it is what it is. If it's not, I don't know what it is. Enjoy.
I'll just start again with the first day on the job. It was a job that I was going to be traveling around doing. It was just me and one other guy. And I met my boss down in San Jose, and he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him some of the stuff I did before I got there, and I asked him what he did. And he told me that he helped a friend put in security systems, which by itself means nothing. And then he said that sometimes it's the people that are putting the systems in that you have to watch out for. And he began to laugh. Right away I thought that maybe there was something in the news that I had missed, maybe a joke that I wasn't catching on to. I was worried because it was just me and him driving around, doing some pretty technical work. And, this guy was laughing about it for about 15 minutes, and I didn't know what I was in for with him. But I knew that I needed the money, and it was good money, and I needed this to work. And, this guy, for the most part, was normal. Okay, he would switch every now and again. He had the gift of gab. He could talk to anyone. He talked too much. But every now and again, he would just switch. And you didn't know when. And I didn't know what he was getting at. I didn't know, why he would talk about some of the things that he would talk about. And he was pretty mysterious to me. Single guy, was in the Air Force, in electronics. Used to talk about the Boy Scouts all the time. We had to sew the cables in for earthquake, standards. And we had to use special knots. And he would always talk about how some of the Boy Scout knots that he knew would be a better option. And I didn't think anything of that. But like I said, when he would switch, he would just, it didn't make any sense to me. And some of the time he would try to draw me into a conversation where it seemed like he wanted me to talk to him and admit to him that I had, a side to me that no one else knew, a dark side. And he was talking about an X factor or a Vader factor, in his exact words. And, and he would always, kind of talk about the fact that he was going to teach me something. And, he might mumble a little bit while he was talking about it. I don't know what this guy was getting at, but I'll just go into some of the things that I had to deal with. So, one day we were headed to lunch in Salinas, California. We were in his red Jeep Cherokee, and I wasn't paying attention. We're just driving down the road, and he said, you never know what that guy's got going on. And I wasn't paying attention. I don't know if it was somebody in a vehicle or walking. I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, you wouldn't think that guy had pictures of himself in other people's underwear, tied up in bondage, hidden in a closet in his basement, would you? And he starts laughing. Okay, and remember, this conversation had no context. Just completely out of the blue. Made no sense to me. And, then his next words were, you just never know. And he's giggling about this stuff all through lunch hour, all the way back to the job site. I had no idea what he's talking about. And he would do that. He would do that occasionally. And, Like I said, he was always trying to get me to admit something to him. And it was usually late at night when we were working, after hours. And, it was usually just me and him on the job site. And it would be towards the end of the day. This guy would get frustrated every now and again. And, he would start talking about things. And, I thought maybe he would, just bring that stuff up to let me know not to mess with him. People get tired of getting messed with. And, they will let you know that, hey, if you screw me over, bad things are going to happen. That's kind of how I took it at that point. I didn't know what else to think. And, I had quit smoking. I think it was about 9 months in. And this guy smoked, and we were working up in San Francisco. And we were working in a multi-level building. We'd been working all day. We didn't eat. He didn't have a chance to smoke cigarettes. So, as soon as we were on our way back up towards, Spyglass, he started smoking. He lit up one, then he lit up two. When he lit up the third one, I was a little annoyed. And I said something smart-ass to him, and it pissed him off. He looks over at me, and he says, "For all you know, I'm BTK." And he's staring at me. I'm thinking he's joking, right? I'm waiting for him to start laughing or whatever, and he's just staring at me. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not good, because he's my boss. You don't want to make your boss mad. That's not a good thing, especially when it's just you and him driving around. And then I started thinking about all the things that he's talked about. And I'm thinking, I don't know this guy, really. I think that was like 4.5 months into our little, job thing together. And so I looked at him and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you mad. For all I know, you are." And he starts laughing, and he says under his breath, he says, "Or maybe his apprentice." And I looked at him and I said, "What?" I said, "If you're going to mess with me, you tell me you're the guy." And he says, "Yeah, I suppose you're right." And he kind of loosened up, which I was glad that he did. And he said, "Yeah, you never know. He's, maybe all the movies and everything out there are portraying him, as something that he's not. Maybe he's just a regular guy. Maybe, he's even kind of a wimp. Short, fat, bald, glasses, mustache. Maybe he's even got a name like a woman," he said, "like Kim or Lynn." And then he kind of chuckled and said middle name under his breath. Okay, and then he said maybe he's got a name that everybody knows, nobody knows it. Maybe he's got a name like Dennis the Menace in the newspapers. Now he's starting to chuckle. He's really starting to get off on this. And as usual, I have no idea why we're talking about this, really. It'd be like saying, well, what if the, Zodiac's name was Fred? Who cares, right? What's that got to do with anything? There's no context to it. There's really no irony. And then he kept going. He said, what if it's a name that everybody knows, like a football team, like the Raiders? Maybe those people that are wearing those Raiders hats and jackets know something they don't know. And then he really starts laughing. Okay, and, this conversation had gone on way too long for me. And I didn't know why he was laughing so hard. It didn't make any sense to me. And I'm starting to wonder if this guy's not popping pills or doing something that I don't know about. But he keeps going with it, and, he kind of bubbles up, and he says, what if he's a cop? You think that could be possible? What do you think? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's why they can't catch him. I didn't really know anything about this guy. And he says, well, maybe he's just, checking to see if people have their garbage cans in the right place and so forth. And then he said, maybe he's an upstanding citizen, a pillar of the community that nobody would suspect. Maybe he's even a deacon in the church. And then he really starts laughing. And he's slapping his knees, and, he actually had tears in his eyes. He was laughing so hard at that point, and I couldn't figure out what he was talking about, period. And, he keeps going. He starts talking about Boy Scout leaders and stuff. And then, he says, well, the guy's messing with the police. messing with the FBI and they can't catch him. You know, he's pretty smart. And it sounded like he was kind of idolizing him at that point. And he mentions that, you know, the name. He didn't like the name. He said, I don't know. BTK, bind, torture, kill. I guess it's all right. He said, but I thought of something better. Just imagine a black hole that nobody could see, and if you step too close to the center, you disappear forever. And he said, vortex. What do you think? That sound pretty good to you? And I'm like, I was really tired of talking about this. It was making me uncomfortable. I had no idea why, just like the other conversations that we had. And I took the opportunity to switch it to, you know, outer space and, you know, quasars and vortexes. And I, you know, at that point I had no idea because that was in 1999. Okay. I had no idea who Dennis Lynn Rader was. I didn't really know anything about the BTK case. Okay. And when this guy gets caught in 2005 and I see his picture on the news, I remembered the conversation. It was just so weird, I couldn't get it out of my head. And, you know, what am I going to do? Call up the FBI? Tell them that I knew about this? It's crazy, right? It's nuts. What am I going to say? Oh, no, there's this guy who claims that he's an apprentice, and, you know, you never know. He could be out there, you know, doing some weird stuff. Really, you know, if they couldn't make the connection, they'll, you know, you'd be lucky to get thrown in the loony bin for a while. They can charge you up to $50,000 and put you in jail. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. It sounded crazy. So I just started looking into this stuff. He went into the Air Force. You know, the whole thing is weird. And, you know, I knew, the only thing I really knew is that he knew about this guy. Okay, however that worked. And I found out where he lived, which is a little less than 300 miles from Wichita, Kansas. I already knew he was into the Boy Scouts and everything. And Dennis Rader had 10 kills, okay? They have what they call modus operandi. And that's, you know, what they do typically when they go out and do their thing. And he'd only moved 2 bodies out of the 10 kills that he admitted to. The first one he moved to a trunk, and I think that was his first kill. And the last one, Dolores Davis, okay? But he picked her because he was afraid that, you know, he was getting older and he didn't want to become overpowered, so he picks this old woman, right? I think she was 62. And the weird thing about it is he was a Boy Scout leader, and he uses the Trappers Rendezvous Boy Scout camp. He's out there as a scoutmaster or whatever he was, and he leaves in the middle of the night. That's his cover. Operation Dogside or something like that. I don't know. And supposedly he does his thing, but he moves the body, takes it to the church, and then he takes it out in the country, and then he drops it off in a drainage ditch, plays a bunch of 007 games with the keys and all these other things. It didn't make sense, and you can watch his confession. It makes no sense. None. He totally screwed up his story altogether. And then he goes back to the camp and supposedly makes a pancake breakfast for all these scouts and takes a nap. I don't believe a word. I don't think he was alone. I don't know if this other guy was with him or not. But something is funny, you know, something doesn't make sense with that. And, you know, that's all I got.
Spent a lot of time looking into this. Guy's name is Brian, lives less than 300 miles from Wichita, Kansas. He is trying to be his apprentice. He's doing a damn good job. Went into the Air Force, heavily involved in the church and his community. He's got the Boy Scouts, his charity for his business. Got some food stands up in northern Texas. We speculate that he met him when he was a kid, going up to Trappers Rendezvous Camp. They have that every year. Probably met him in the Boy Scouts, worked with him later, you know, doing the security system thing. Dennis worked at ADT, and the rest is history. We know he knew all about him. You can watch the Dennis Rader confession of Dolores Davis murder. He totally screws that up, by the way, and it's obvious. Was Brian with him on the Dolores Davis murder? We don't know. We don't know what he's doing. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe.